All right, so we have seen that we can use constructors in order to be able to give our instance variables initial values at when the objects are created or instantiated. We've also learned that we can create classes in a separate file, then we define all of the variables define all the functions within a class. And then we can actually include those together into some main file in order to be able to access one or multiple classes without it cluttering up our main file. And so I introduced you to the idea of a mouse class. We are going to write a program with a mouse class. Now, a mouse is going to be made up of 3 variables. It will have an age, a weight, and a growth rate, and it'll have a variety of different functions that are available to it. So we have been hired to write some software for mice that are going to be in an experiment. So when a mouse is first put in an experiment, their age is going to be 0, and their age will be 1. They'll be 1 day old, and their weight will be 0. And then we need to be able to set the growth rate, because sometimes the mouse is going to be running on a treadmill experiment, and then maybe we want to put the mouse in eating a Big Mac a day experiment, and we want to put him back on a run in a treadmill experiment, and then we're just going to see what those effects have. So we need to be able to change the growth rate. We need to be able to grow our mouse, and that function is just going to increase the age and the weight of the mouse by 1 day. We need to be able to print the mouse so we can see what the values are in it. And then we're going to use some getters in order to just be able to return the age, the weight, and the growth rate. Just in case I don't want to print an entire mouse, I want to print specific aspects of a mouse. All right, so we're going to do this, first of all, in Visual Studio. So in Visual Studio, I started a new project, and I called it the Mouse Project, and it called it CPP. What I don't want to call it is Mouse. So I'm going to have it, you can call it Mouse Driver, you can call it anything but Mouse, because I need 2 additional files. So in Visual Studio Community, I'm going to come over to the Solution Explorer. If you can't see your Solution Explorer, you're going to click on View, and then check Solution Explorer. And over here, I can go into, click on the header files. If I right-click on it, we are actually going to add a new file. So I'm going to call this Mouse.h. So Mouse.h, we're going to create a header file, and if I add it, I see that it shows up into my header files. We're going to create one more because we need another new item, and this will be Mouse.cpp. This is the implementation file where we're going to define all of the functions in the mouse class. And then the mouse project, or whatever it is that I called my new project, this is going to be our main file. Now, if you're doing this in Replit, something like Replit, you can call the project anything you want it to. I called it Mouse Project, but it automatically calls the main file main. And then we would add a couple additional files. We would add a Mouse.h for our header file, and then we would add yet one more. And we're going to call this file Mouse.cpp. Because I need 3 files. The header file, which contains the class specification, and then I need the CPP file, the implementation file, for the function definitions, and then I need the driver program. If you're doing this in something like JGrasp, you just have to make sure that all 3 of the files are in the exact same folder, location, in order to be able to run 3 of them. So we'll come back to Visual Studio, and we're going to come over to our mouse.header file. Now, Visual Studio is nice enough to add the pragma once, or you can use the poundf if you want to. I'm just going to let it use the pragma once. And then I am going to lay out what I want my class to look like. So I've used the keyword class. We're going to call our class mouse, and this is the header file. Inside of that class, I'm going to have private variables. I'm also going to make some public functions. We've already decided that the variables that we need are an age. We're going to use a double weight, and then we'll use a double growth rate. All right, so the functions that we've decided on are, first of all, we're going to have a constructor and then we are going to display the mouse, and then we need to be able to set the growth rate in case the mouse changes experiment into ice cream sundaes every day. And then we need to be able to grow the mouse. The next thing that we're going to ask ourselves is, what about getters and setters? It seems like set growth rate is itself a setter, so we don't need a specific setter for that. It seems like grow is the way that we're going to manipulate the age and the weight. So do I need getters and or setters for, let's say, age? Would I want to be able to have them set the age? Well, that's what grow does. Grow sets the age. So we're going to have a getter for age. I don't want them to be able to just arbitrarily set the age. What about weight? Well, grow is, in theory, a setter for the weight, but I do want them to be able to get the weight if they want to. The growth rate, well, we already have a setter for growth rate. It's called set growth rate. So we are going to have a getter for growth rate as well. So we'll come back in here and we'll create the function definitions. And so if you remember, a constructor has to have the exact same name as the class. So I'll call it capital Mouse. The print mouse is, I don't need it to return anything to me. So we'll call it print mouse. And then the set the growth rate. This doesn't return anything either. They are going to have to pass me a value that they want to grow the mouse by, and then the getters and the setters. And so we'll create, if we're using a getter for age, it will be int get age. We'll call it get age. And then we'll also have a getter for the weight, which is a double. The data type of that variable is double. So we'll say get weight. And then the last one is the growth rate, which is also a double. So growth rate, I don't have any parameters for that. All right, so we should have our function declarations for all of our functions that we need in our mouse object or mouse class. Oh, I missed one. See, this was the set the growth rate, but we do need the grow. So let me move this up here by the growth rate, and then we need that grow, right? And so this will be, we'll call it grow mouse or something like that, grow mouse. Doesn't have any parameters because it's just going to increase the age and the weight by 1 day. And I'll even include that in the comment on line 25, what I'm hoping to do, what I plan to do with that function.